to start with hikes.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Today is really important because, as some of you might know, August in South Africa is considered Women's Month. August 9th being a very important day when 20,000 women marched to the Union buildings to say that they were not going to carry the passbook, which was a kind of passport for Black people. And particularly, they were deciding that Black women needed to carry the pass. And they basically marched to the Union buildings and said, you strike a woman, you strike a rock. And I'd like us to show that clip, please, Justine.
It was only when I stood on the amphitheater together with the 3 other women and I looked around, the tears welled down my face because it became a reality.
The 1956 march was the culmination of many marches that women had organized in the Free State, in Natal, in the Cape Province. So in one sense, the significance of the march is that you have, for the first time, women across class, who coming from across the country, who going to the Union buildings, to the highest office in the land, to speak in their own name. Interesting thing about the march was that it was also about bringing together your everyday women. It wasn't just an elitist movement. This is happening before the Freedom Charter. It's happening before the Grand Defiance campaign. It's the first of this new way of thinking that thinks about the political movement as rooted in the ordinary mass of people.
And so in contextualizing the march, the Women's March, we also celebrate and commemorate and pay tribute to the legacy of Ambassador Zinzi Mandela, whom we lost, as you know, during this pandemic. And so we have a little tribute, if we can show that, please.
My mother tried getting us into schools in Soweto, and the Black principals then were very scared of police harassment. They were afraid to take us because one or two had already experienced, harassment from the security police for having us there. Then we had to use, we changed our surnames, and my mother took us to, a colored school in town, and there as well, the security police caught up with us and, had us kicked out of that school. And this went on and on in about 6 or 7 schools here in town, where we were just chucked out, we wouldn't even spend a month if we kicked out, until such time that some friends of my mother heard about our plight and then they offered to have us educated in Swaziland.
Knowing Mama's strength and charisma and her determination, tremendous respect that I have for her strength as a woman, that she was able to be a single parent and she was able to put a smile on her face, always hold her head up high. We never saw her fall apart.
My father says, I cannot and will not give any undertaking at a time when I and you, the people, are not free. Your freedom and mine cannot be separated. I will return. Amanda!
The letter that he wrote to me that I obviously didn't get, where he was analyzing my poetry and so on, it was very touching, it was quite emotional. It is like some kind of personal comfort that at least the world recognizes the sacrifices that he's made, that he wasn't able to father us for many years, that when he was incarcerated, he suffered many losses whilst in prison, personal losses, but he still came out to be a man of peace and reconciliation. I'm glad that that is being documented and shared and that people continue to celebrate his life. I think it's very important for us to try to help implement his vision for South Africa, for South African children, for the youth in general, for the world, for everybody to realize. You know, like now I think that the saying is like, it's in your hands. That's what the legacy institutions are saying. That's what he has said, I'm handing over. I think it's so important, you know, for us just to, you know, let go, let him be. I would do it all again. I can't imagine, that's all I've known. Everything else is just a fantasy. And what I've learned from this is to define myself, not according to what I've suffered, the anguish and so on, but according to how I've survived that. And I think that's an important lesson, especially as in my capacity as a mother, as a grandmother. It's very important for me to be able to demonstrate that type of resilience and ability to see, to have a more holistic approach to life for the sake of my children, especially during difficult times.
Wow. As we remember all these amazing women, and we are so happy to have all of you as iconic women around this Zoom meeting and onto Facebook, because I think what you share with us in your individual capacities as amazing women is what we want to share with our audience today. So Dr. Philae Empress Chi, I know that you have also been an amazing woman and you organized the 1 Million Women March. Can we, would you like to tell us about it, or shall we show the clip first? What would you prefer?
Why don't you show the clip first, because then they can actually begin to visualize what it is I'm going to say.
It's amazing in terms of contextualizing that.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, can we have that clip, please?
Greetings, Mahotep, which of course means justice and peace. My name is Sister Empress Dr. Philae Chionesu. I am the originator and architect of the historic Million Woman March, the one and only Million Woman March. Million Woman March, where do I begin? And that's pretty much kind of interesting to say, because we're still in a way beginning. You know, when you understand the building of a movement, you have to know and put it in the proper context. It's not something that generally occurs overnight. And if you study our history, you will see that the most things that have been long lasting took quite a bit of time to develop. And the way that we recognize them today is, in fact, that it took some time. When I first got this notion, this vision for the Million Woman March, it came in a way that was kind of almost startling to me, but at the same time, I knew I had to answer that call. And so, being one who is familiar with the final call, I knew there had to be a new day, because anytime there's a final in something, then something has to emerge from it. So in recognizing that, realizing that our men took a very serious stand on October 16th of 1995, seeing that, loving it, I knew that the sisters had to come forward and also answer the call, and they did. they did in a way that has never been done before, and in reality could never be done again. Because no matter what happens tomorrow or next week or next year, the Million Woman March is etched in stone. It's etched in stone because it happened in the 20th century. So realistically and historically speaking, the Million Woman March is the largest gathering in the world of any women anywhere ever that can never be changed because it has.
Thank you. Empress Chi, tell us about that. What an amazing feat. And I know that you also mentioned you will be doing something for Mama Winnie Mandela on the 26th of September.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for inviting me for this wonderful dialogue, this very important dialogue. And before I begin, I always give thanks and praises to our Creator, and certainly am very appreciative of what I call our freedom fighting ancestors. Again, the Million Woman March is now in its 23rd year of consistent, independent work. And certainly in talking about Mother Winnie, and certainly again in remembering our dear sister, we call her Sister Z, you know, that spirit. We have continued that work in these 23 years. Well, of course, we had Mother Winnie with us on October 25th, 1997. And that was, oh my goodness, such a interesting situation to fight, to bring her into the United States at that time. It was really an incredible feat all across the board. And so this September the 26th, because we have declared Mother Winnie as one of our, what we call sister saints. This year on a national level, the Million Woman March Universal Movements and our supporters will be observing what we call National Queen Mother Winnie Mandela Day, so that we know that when we hear Amandla, we will always associate that with her family, with her work, and certainly the Million Woman March now being the first global movement for women and girls of African descent worldwide. We're now going to bring forward that energy of our mothers from antiquity to present day. And particularly, of course, with that spirit of fighting not only for our sisters globally when it comes to violence and abuse, but here in the US to make sure that the world knows that we charge genocide for 400 years of atrocities that have been inflicted upon African people in the United States.
Wow, wow. Amandla. That is amazing. Amandla. Thank you. I'm going to link that into, if we can bring in just the clip, Justine, of Huda, the Egyptian clip. it's iconic women who have to make changes and differences in our world. I'd like to come to you, Ambassador Narjis of Tunisia. I know that, you know, our work with you on the Mandela Project was so important, and you have inspired us so much with Tunisia and the work that you have done in terms of equal rights, equal pay for women. And every time we talk to you, we get more inspired. So please, I hand over to you. We have got your clips, and we have a little, should we show the little tourism slide? Would you like us to show that video first? Just unmute yourself.
I am unmute, I think.
Good.
Okay. Thank you very much first for those for inviting me to this informal but very important dialogue and platform. I hope the broadcasting will touch many of the the readers or the followers. I would like just to say something before beginning that August 9th, 1956 is corresponding also in Tunisia. I don't know what is the coincidence, but on 13th of August 1956 was promulgated the act, the Women Act. So this act was empowering the women. It is the first, let's say, in the Arab world to give equal rights to women, and especially to preserve her rights. So with the abolition of polygamy, abolition of early marriage, education obligatory for the girls, civil marriage and divorce, equal salary. So we since 1956, on 13th of August in Tunisia, we celebrate the Women's Day. So there is this correspondence with South Africa. And when I see that image, the icon of the march on 9th of August, now you have touched the woman, you have struck a rock. This is really very much corresponding to the, let's say, the soul of the Tunisian women, because I think history, men and women make history, and history is here to inspire us. That's why I chose to present to you and to your to our honorable guests also and followers the story of four iconic women. They are amongst many other. So I don't know if you go on with the presentation, then the clip, the tourism clip, we can do it at the end.
Sure. We can show the slide as you talk.
Yes. So okay. I choose these iconic figures because the first one, Aziza Athmena, lived in the 17th century, and she was a philanthropist, and she dedicated all her wealth and life to help medicating the poorest in Tunis, the capital, because her son was murdered by the Bey at that time. And until now, all her belongings are property of kind of foundation that no one can sell or do anything. All the benefits goes always to this hospital. There is a hospital in Tunis capital of her name, and this is we can see a postal stamp on her for her legacy. So this lady lived in the 17th century. Later on, in the beginning of the 20th century, we have Tawhida Benchir, who was the first woman to be graduated as a physician in France. And in her, group, she was also the only woman I didn't find the photo group that they have when she graduated, but she was pictured. She was the only woman in the group, and also she dedicated her how to say, her work to the women and to gynecology and to help the women in their, how to say, most important event, giving birth and procreating, and also keeping their body and their health accordingly. And also she was active, we will see later, she was active in the movement, the women's movement for the independence of Tunisia later on in the 30s. And we have a note, a bank note on her effigy also. Yes, this is the bank note of 10 dinars with her photo. Then I choose to present also Bshira Ben Mrad, who is a political activist, and she founded the union, the movement for the women's movement for the independence of Tunisia, when at that time we were still colonized by the French. And we can see a photo where there is in the middle late President Bourguiba, who was the father of the nation. And I want to say that he found a real ground among the women to continue or to go aside with the struggle for the freedom, a struggle in a peaceful way, which was not such armed struggle, but mostly based on rights and going to international fora and meeting and giving awareness to the people. So Bshira, she lived between she was born in 1913 and died in 1993. So she was a political leader, really. Then the last one, Lina Ben Mhenni, is the iconic girl of the Tunisian revolution during 2011. She was the only journalist. She is professor, lecturer, university lecturer, but she created a blog called A Tunisian Girl in the three language, Arab, French, and English. And she was the only one during the uprising event in the eastern southern part of Tunisia, where the first spark of uprising came up. She was the only one to be able to, she went there on the ground and she was photographing and reporting. And she was the only one who managed to strike the wall that was done by, how to say, the regime at that time, prohibiting the information to get on the net. So she's a blogger and activist for human rights, and she dedicated all her life, because she died in January 2020. Her death was like an earthquake for the activists and all the civil society. And you can see on a photo her her body being carried by women, while in the Muslim tradition, this will never happen. The body is always carried by men, and only men go to the cemetery to deposit the body. But in her case, it was only and firstly woman. She was very loved by, how to say, by all the activists, and she was even proposed for a Nobel Prize, Peace Nobel Prize 2011. This is a little story of some iconic figures. Just last word, I mean, we can also remember that the Nobel Prize 2014 was given to a Tunisian quartet, and among the quartet, there was the president of the Entrepreneur Union, who is a lady also. So this is all example. Of course, myself as a career diplomat and ambassador is just a little example of the women, how to say, struggle, not struggle, the women presence in the Tunisian scene. And as a last word, I think history inspires us, but we need action, everyday action, and to look to the future and act. We cannot just tell the history or tell the story how we were great and what we did. I think we have to act, because every day is a struggle.
Wow, that was so good and so interesting. And as you say that, I just remembered a very good friend and comrade of ours, late Firoza Adam, who passed away on the 8th of August, was buried on the 9th of August, and her birthday is the 16th of August. And wow, just in the same tradition of an Islamic funeral, the women came to the cemetery, which, as you know, is not really allowed. And the women said, we had to tell her story through us. So it is very powerful that women can take that stand and really show their voice and their strength. Thank you so very much, Ambassador. That was really wonderful. We've now come to Brukti. Brukti, we're going to first show a clip of the first female president of Ethiopia. And I think we all celebrated that. And then I want you to tell us about Ethiopia and also your amazing work and the many, many, many awards that you have won over the years. So Justine, could we please show that clip?
Ethiopia's new president was warmly applauded into the parliament as the unanimous choice of the gathered assembly. Sahle-Work Zewde has the credentials and the credibility to give genuine weight to her presidency, despite the role being largely ceremonial. Fluent in English and French, as well as her native language, she was born in Addis Ababa, studied in France, and has been an ambassador to France, Djibouti, and Senegal. Her most recent post was as the UN's top official at the African Union. Women's rights and peace are top of her priorities.
The absence of peace mainly victimizes women, so during my presidency, my main focus is to ensure peace by mobilizing all Ethiopian women, peace-loving men, and all peoples of the world who love peace.
Change is underway. Ethiopia's reformist Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed last week appointed a streamlined 20-person cabinet in which half the posts are held by women, including in charge of the Defense Ministry and the newly created Ministry of Peace, supervising police and domestic security. The new president is also a strong advocate for an end to religious, ethnic, and gender discrimination.
It is the presidential office that tables a motion every fiscal year to both houses, the upper and the lower houses, as to guiding, outlining the guidance of the government's activities for incoming years. So it's.
Thank you. So Brukti, welcome. Are you on mute? Are you on mute?
Yes.
Hi, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to join this amazing panel. The clip you showed is one of the most inspiring moments in the last few years. We're so blessed to have our president, Sahle-Work Zewde. She's a great advocate for women's rights and children education and peace building. And since she's been appointed, has been doing incredible work and really demonstrating what women can do and when they are given the opportunity. And most of us, as you've seen on the parliament, we have 50% representation, and they're doing an excellent job. And now the push is that to happen in every sector and every boardroom and every leadership places. And so we're making good progress, but it's not enough because, you know, most of our population lives in rural community, and still there are staggering statistics that women and girls are not having the rights of equal opportunity in terms of accessing education, economic growth, and things like that. So for me, my passion has been, working with young minds and children and youth. And I believe most of the thing that's keeping us behind and, taking opportunity from women and girls is mainly our old belief system and some of our negative norms. So, and for that to change, we need to educate, and we have to, start young. So, because I'm also a school teacher, I start doing my, reach out to children and youth through television and radio program. So we have done different programs for children and youth, and one being, the early childhood development program that has been broadcasting for over 10 years. And this is the longest running television program for children. And on that, we make sure not only, educate children, but also parents and other viewers by doing, very practical small things, like, let's say, our main characters being a female. And this is, even worldwide, 1 out of 3 characters we see on the screen are girls. So mostly, male figures being on the screen, or girls are getting stereotyped, roles and non-meaningful dialogues, or even very minimal dialogues to say. And all those plays on our unconscious mind, how we treat women, how we treat girls, and how we involve them to take equal opportunity in this world. So for me, to empower boys and girls, we need to start early. We need to start education that is relevant to their culture and to their context. So that's why we started to do now the second adolescent program, which is called the Tibab Girls, and that is using 3 superpower girls who are tackling issues that are affecting their life. So in our context, the issue they're tackling, their villain, are not really something that's fictional. Unfortunately, it's something that is that affecting their life every day, such as female genital mutilation, or missing school because of menstruation, or all the things we are experiencing on a daily basis. But bringing that kind of social injustice and social issue into day-to-day mainstreaming media is my way of fighting injustice and inequality.
Thank you, Brukti. And you are doing so very well with that. So we really do appreciate all your hard work and your work that travels across the continent. Thank you so much. And now we come to our beloved Palestine. Ambassador, I'm sure when you came to South Africa, you understood that our lives are intertwined, that as our President Mandela said, that our freedom is linked. And so we welcome you tonight. And would you like us to show the clip first from Palestine?
Maybe yes, then we can start our talk.
I think so. Justine, could we show about a minute of the clip? Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Ambassador. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would love to thank you for this nice opportunity to meet all of you, those iconic women, and to share the story. First of all, I would like to say Happy Women's Month, despite the fact that everything around us is very difficult and troubling. It's a difficult year. Still, if you allow me, I would love to say go women go here in South Africa, in the continent, in the globe, and allow me also to pay a special tribute to women suffering in areas of conflict and in war zones. Especially a special tribute goes to women of Lebanon, who since 3 days are suffering a lot because of the Beirut explosions, as we all witnessed. It's not only the women in Lebanon, also the women in the Middle East, women of Palestine, of Iraq, of Syria, of Yemen, women in war zones, really that put a huge burden on their shoulders, because and here allow me to start talking about myself, because Palestine is always portrayed in media as an area of conflict and as a war zone. It's not an easy experience at all, because women usually in well-established countries and states, they usually face the typical challenges, let's say, like the patriarchal system, like gender-based violence, and all these issues that we consider difficulties in a way or another. But in areas of conflict, in areas of wars, the suffering is doubled and the responsibility is doubled on the shoulder of women. Because it's not only the typical challenges, they are faced with other kinds of challenges, especially this year. For example, another kind of challenge comes from the coronavirus pandemic, because we can't deny that women are the backbone for the houses. It's their responsibility to take care of the kids, to take care of the husband, to take care of themselves in such a difficult and distinct times. Add to this, if women were living in areas of conflict, they have a huge responsibility to take care of themselves, to take care of the kids, the family, the husband, and to keep the unity of the family. For example, in Palestine, the situation is alarming and it's a bit difficult, but everything has a double face, as we say. The Palestinian women are survivors. I would love to say that they are really survivors, because despite all the challenges and despite the Israeli occupation and despite the apartheid regime that they are squeezed by its measures, let's say, but still they can find themselves as agents for change. They never give up. They never lose their humanity and zest for life. And this is the power of the Palestinians in general and of the Palestinian women in particular. Let's say, for example, I would like to share with you some of the challenges that women in other countries may not face due to the normalities that they live and due to the well-established state that they enjoy. I'm sure that everyone has its own challenges in a way or another, but to be occupied by a prolonged colonial expansionist regime is something really different, and it's something that have an impact on every aspect of women's life. One major challenge is the detention or the imprisonment of the Palestinian men and women, but men on a larger scale. For example, statistics show that 1 out of 5 Palestinian men were subject to detention and were subject to the Israeli imprisonment during the 70 years of the Israeli occupation for Palestine. You can imagine the number then of females who were left alone to face this society and to face the tragedies the Israeli occupation put on their shoulders. They needed at many times, in many examples, to be the households, to be the breadwinners, and to take care of the family, to take care of the kids, to take care of the elderly people. This is a huge thing that really thinks it's leaves its impact on Palestinian women and in society general. Because when we talk about this, we do not talk about something that comes and just goes. It leaves an impact. And here, why it's danger. The family sometimes itself or the unity of the family is traumatized because of such actions. Also, Palestinian women has been subjected to detention, especially the activists, the journalists, people who can be a role model for Palestinians. For example, now in Israeli jails, we have around 43 Palestinian women, and all reports from Amnesty, from the UN reports says that they have been subjected to one kind of torture, either verbal, either physical, and even psychological, which is really very harmful. Many of them has been subjected to rape and to violent actions, really against the international laws, against UN Charter. And especially now, it's very important to raise this issue on all platforms, because it's significant is now that women are still held in a very dramatic conditions while the coronavirus pandemic is spreading in the Israeli jails. So it's very difficult and it's very complicated. Its impact goes in different layers and level. Another impact when we are talking, for example, about the house demolition and the destruction of properties for Palestinian people. As I mentioned, women are always very much emotional. They are the backbone of the family. They take care of the family. So when you find that your house or the place that you live in, your shelter is demolished, and you are forcibly forced to be going out of it, you will do your best to keep the unity of your family, to take care of your kids, to find another shelter, which also leaves the woman without any space to show her real emotions, to show her real feelings. She is a strong woman. She has to be always solid like a rock so that her kids won't be affected. And this really another burden on the shoulder of a woman. Another impact that goes on because of the prolonged occupation, and it really affects the woman a lot, is the expansion of the Israeli settlement. This does not happen without a price. The price is the grabbing of the Palestinian land on a daily basis. So again, the woman feels threatened. And again, when you take the Palestinian land and you construct your own settlement, then this settlement should be protected, because every Palestinian individual, a woman, a child, an elderly, anyone who is approaching these settlements is a target to be killed. So women still afraid that her son, her husband, her brother might go into a wrong place at a wrong time and he will be shot dead, because settlers are violent. They are carrying weapons all the time. So this also leaves women lives in tragedy of maybe tracking their kids, not being able to really rest assured that everything is safe and sound around them, taking into consideration, of course, that settlement itself, the construction of settlement is illegal and prohibited under international law and under UN Charter. Another important issue is the the forcible removal of Palestinians, especially the Bedouin communities and people living in East Jerusalem, because the Israelis really want to see a land without people, especially in area that they call it, according to the Oslo Accord, Area C, where they want the resources without the people. So they are trying always to terrify the people, to uproot them from their areas, which again and again is constitute a threat for even for sometimes for the mental health for women, because they are the most vulnerable in the circle. They are the most affected in the circle. They always try to show their strength and that they are supporter for their families. And many times the UN organizations and defenders of human rights, they take these women for debriefings, because it's a kind of a shock and it's a kind of traumatizing them just to be living in such difficult and unusual circumstances. Of course, all this comes, we can add to it the night raids. The night raids, it's terrifying to see a soldier coming into your house, even in the daylight. So what do you think if it comes in the night, in the midnight, full of their guns and lights, and the kids and the family usually will be will be in the lap of the mother. So usually the mother constitutes the shell against any of these practices. Of course, the occupation is an occupation, and it does, when it comes to targeting activists, they will not differentiate between men and women, but they are targeting women lately, especially journalists, especially human rights defenders, because they know that people listen. They know that people take the narration of women more passionately, because women usually focuses on things that men usually do not focus on, more emotional and more sophisticated and more details oriented. That's why Palestinian women, especially activists, journalists, have been targeted for the Israeli soldiers in the past couple of years. Unfortunately, all these circumstances makes it very difficult for Palestinian women to make it in such shell, let's say, or in such a situation. But as I mentioned, despite all the challenges that we are facing, and despite every element that really pushes you to lose hope, no, the Palestinian women are still seeing themselves, of course, inspired by the role models that we heard about them, and sometimes that we live with them, like, for example, Dalal Al-Mughrabi, like Layla Khalid, which will be hosted by Africa for Palestine in a couple of days. Also to tell her story as a freedom fighter, because she's still alive, and many of the Palestinian freedom fighters who lost their lives and sacrificed for the sake of freeing their homeland. One important...
You are having Layla Khalid in South Africa?
Virtually, of course, because of the of the pandemic. Yes. Africa for Palestine, actually, they are hosting here. Yes, but she has been to South Africa before. Yeah. So just to wrap up, I don't want to take too much, and to share some information with you. I would love to say that despite all of the challenges, it's always proud for us as Palestinian women to be Palestinian and to face all the challenges, because it's this is life. This is what life is all about. And in the middle of all these challenges, we never lost our humanity, and our zest for life. We still take care of our clothes. We still do our own embroidery, and this is part of our tradition, and we are so proud of. We cook very nice food. We do hummus, we do falafel, we do makluba, and we are invite you all to come and taste. Of course, we celebrate life. We love music. We love poetry. We dance dabke in every possible occasion, and I do believe that this is the power of us women, and the power of women in war zones, and the power of the Palestinian women in particular. I really look at the women in South Africa as a model, and we really look forward to gain our independence soon, and to bring the Israeli apartheid regime into an end, exactly as what happened here in South Africa. And this is also brings us into another issue, which is the solidarity. I think what we need now is solidarity. We Palestinians, we do have it in our DNA, because we do believe that this is the way we can outreach the world, and this is the way how the world is standing with us, despite that the Israeli narrative is more powerful and it's more mainstreamed in the media. But still, we do believe that solidarity is much needed, and we need the solidarity of women, and we need the solidarity of the international community in this difficult time. Thank you again for the nice talk with great ladies, and thank you also, and wish everyone a lovely evening and a lovely month.
Thank you so much. I think this was really a very powerful and very important conversation. And as you talk about the police coming in the middle of the night, I was a young student activist when they came knocking on my door, and I was detained in apartheid South Africa. So I understand that great fear, because it's that thing about jolting you out when you are so confused because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. And we know that Mama Winnie Mandela had that so often, but so many activists who get pulled out at a time when you're really not prepared to be detained and to be harassed. But this is such an important time to celebrate as well, and to celebrate the amazing women that we've seen from Tunisia, Ethiopia, the USA, Egypt. I think that women have such resilience. And Ambassador Narges, we didn't show your clip, so I think we should show some of the beauty of Tunisia, because I was saying to Justine, she said she's never been to Tunis. I said she has to come because it's such a beautiful country. And so I'd like us to close probably with that clip, but Empress Chi, do you want to say anything as we close? Empress Chi? I'm not sure if she's still there. Would you have a closing word, Brukti? Would you like to say something? Brukti?
Hi, I was just I was so inspired by the strings, and like you said, it's a time to celebrate, because you know it's not only the past but the present. These amazing women, you know, what they're doing for justice and equality in their country, and I truly believe in solidarity, and we're with you, with all of you, and you know we want to make this world better, especially for girls and women, and time to be united for a cause, and we're with you, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can, Empress.
Okay, great. Okay, again, I want to thank all of our panelists for just bringing that wonderful information. And I wanted to say that, of course, in 1997, the Million Woman March made major steps, but from the grassroots, we've been able to now come globally. And as I'm listening to our sisters, what has become even more apparent is the plans of action that we have now we've got to engage in that. We know what many of the problems are, but how do we bring that synergy, that creativity, et cetera, together? And so MWM is designed to do that. And so in 2011, we actually began doing work in the United Nations. We were blessed to connect with the legacy of Queen Mother Moore, who of course fought diligently for reparations for African people here in the US. And of course, she was connected globally to Kwame Nkrumah and others. And since then, we've been able to now build in various parts of the diaspora. And it's so appropriate that we do, because the history and legacy of African people in the US embodies all of Africa. And so one of the sons of Queen Mother Moore have taught us and often said, you know, we must organize, organize, organize. And of course, that was Kwame Ture. And this is now what our women must now do. So here's what we're proposing. Two things. One, this is the end of the decade for African women, as been mandated by the African Union. And so in October, what the Universal Movements of MWM is doing is holding a week-long session, a pre-summit, if you may, where we can review this past 10 years, get the reports from the various countries who observed or participated in the decade for African women. What came out of that? And with that said, we'll look at it, review it, and MWM will introduce what we call the nexus, which is how we now will proceed in accomplishing and dealing with these issues of violence and abuse, these issues of inequality when it comes to economics, education, and so forth for our women and girls in particular, but also taking our rightful places globally. So again, from October the 19th through the 24th, we're looking at doing a kind of pre-summit virtually so that our women can begin to come together collectively, look at how we can support one another in the various countries in dealing with some of these issues. And then on October 25th, we're calling for an International Day of African Women's Solidarity. Again, we often talk about what some of the problems are, but we have to now look at what are we going to actually do. And with that said, set up a timetable. Begin to really make certain that we are saying what we want to say and doing what we want to do the way we know that we must as women. And so again, we invite all of our women globally to support and to join us on October 25th. We call that African Women's Solidarity Day.
That would be fantastic. We'll do that, and we'll try to have a show so that we can highlight some of these amazing women and the stories. And Ambassador Narjis, would you like to say something? Because we will end with your clip of Tunisia.
Thank you very much. I was thinking we skipped the video, but thank you for reminding and giving, let's say, a hopeful note to our talk. What I would like to say that I think it is time for us women to be in the forefront, and I feel that all what is happening in the world now, all these movement changes, even if it is sometimes very hectic and difficult, it's preparing us, the women, because of our emotional intelligence, to come in the front head of the life, of the world, leading the world in maybe probably a better manner. So a great, happy month, Women Month for South African women, for South African men. Also, they are part of the society, but for all women in this globe, and for each day of challenging they are facing. Thank you for those again. You are doing a great, great, great job.
Thank you. We're going to first watch your beautiful video. That is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you very much.
So I want to thank you all for your time and for your precious participation with us and sharing such important stories of amazing, iconic women. Thank you, everybody, and good night, goodbye, good day. Empress Chi, thank you so much.